Hey crafters, happy Tuesday. Welcome to this week's Tutorial Tuesday. It is Amanda and thank you so much for watching my channel Crafters Autonomous. So you may have noticed my last couple of videos have been a little just crazy just because, I've been out of town, so I'm super excited to be back in my amazing filming room that I just finished getting together. So the lighting and quality and all that should be way better in this video than it's been for the last few videos. So expect more of this quality than like it's been the last couple of videos. Today's project is actually something that I started working on and playing around with this week while I was on vacation. Whenever I go on vacation over the summer, for whatever reason, I always pick a crochet project that I work on. So basically what happens is like half my suitcase is filled with a section of like yarn and crochet and crafting stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna work on this, I'm gonna work on this, I'm gonna work on this. And then usually what happens is either I don't do any crochet at all, or else, like what happened this week, I go and buy a new skein of yarn and then work on something totally different other than one of the things I packed. So what I was working on this week was a couple of different things, kind of all at once, all in one project. So the first thing that I started working on was trying out Bernat Pop yarn. It's actually a really cool yarn. I'll talk more about this as we go on. And the other thing that I started playing around with, which is what today's video is on if you saw the title, is Entrelac Tunisian Crochet. I'm working on making a baby blanket here, and I'm actually going to attach this skein to finish making it a little bit bigger. But let's talk first of all about Entrelac Tunisian Crochet. So today's tutorial is on an alternative method of working Entrelac Tunisian Crochet. So if you're not familiar with Entrelac Tunisian Crochet or just even Entrelac at all, definitely listen to these next couple of minutes. But if you want to just get into the tutorial part for my take on Entrelac Tunisian Crochet, then you can go ahead and jump forward in the video. I'll probably put a little time somewhere on the video screen so you know how far forward to jump. But for those of you who want to know a little bit more about the actual workings of this project, you want to listen to this. So Entrelac actually originates with knitting. I think it's like a French word, and it basically means that it interlocks. So the basic idea is whether you're doing knit entrelac or whether you're doing entrelac with Tunisian crochet, you basically make these diamond patterns. So you work these diamonds along in a row, and then you change color, and your next row of diamonds kind of nestle in. So they kind of sit side by side. You can see some diamonds here. Now what most people do when they work entrelac crochet is they change color every row. So that means that the first set of diamonds are one color and then the next set of diamonds that are kind of nestled in there are a different color. So you almost create like a checkerboard pattern depending on your color choice. And usually with entrelac, you don't turn your work. So you always work with the same side facing towards you. So my variation on this is actually going to kind of throw those two things out the window. That's why I'm kind of explaining this right now, what I'm doing. And essentially the idea here is we're going to work with a cake. So I'm using this Bernat Pop cake. The color is Paisley Pop. And I'm using this because I will get natural color changes just that happen naturally in the yarn. And then also what that means, because I'm doing this where I'm not cutting off yarn and changing colors every row, this means there are a lot less ends to weave in or work over. So that's why I really like this. Also, I think it's really pretty. I love the texture. It's nice and thick. Got a bit of stretch to it, just a nice cozy fun pattern. And as you can see, even though I'm not changing the color every row, it does create these really nice stripes that are just a little bit thicker, a little chunkier, and I think it just looks fun even without changing it every single row of entrelac. So that's a whole big explanation of what I'm going to be showing you in this video. It's not nearly as complicated as all that sounds. You're just going to need some yarn. With this method, again, I'd recommend using a cake like Bernat Pop or maybe a mandala that changes color on its own. You're also going to want a crochet hook. Now, since I'm using this Bernat Pop yarn, I am using a size H 5ml hook. What's really nice about doing entrelac is normally with Tunisian crochet, you need a long hook because you're holding multiple loops on the hook at a time. However, we work these blocks kind of one at a time, so you're not going to have more than about 7 loops on the hook at a time. So I am using a Tunisian hook. This one can have a part that attaches to make it longer, but you can use just a totally normal crochet hook because the loops will still fit on a normal size crochet hook. So now that I've gone through all this explanation, let's get into the tutorial. Alright, so the first step of the project is to create your foundation chain. So you can make this as big as you want. If you look here, this is the first row. This block, this block, this block, this block, and so on. This is actually the back side of the first row. So for however many blocks I want to chain 11. So I'm going to have 3 blocks in the pattern I'm showing you today. So I would have 1, 2, 3. So for each of those blocks, I need to have 11 chains. So 11 chain plus 11 more gives you 22, plus 11 more gives you 33. So however many blocks you want to multiply that number by 11 and then do 1 additional chain. So for me, since I'm trying to get 3 blocks, I'm going to do 3 times 11, which would be 33, and then I'm going to add 1 more chain. So here I have a total of 34 chain. So I'm going to work in the back of my chain along these little nubs on the back. It just helps the look of the Tunisian Crochet project. I personally like it. You could work on the front. I just like working in the back with Tunisian Crochet. So I'm going to start with my first block, and all the blocks are worked just using the Tunisian simple stitch. So that's really nice because it's a pretty basic stitch. Now I'm not going to insert my hook in this very first chain here. I'm going to skip the first chain and insert my hook in the second chain from the hook. Just come right under there, and I'm going to yarn over and pull up 1 loop. So now I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to come to the next chain, insert my hook, yarn over and pull through, and keep repeating this until I have a total of 7 loops on my hook, all at once. So now that I have 7, I am going to start working the return pass. Now normally when you work a return pass, with this first loop, you yarn over and pull through just 1. We're not going to do that with Entrelac crochet. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops, even from the very beginning. And what that's going to do is it's going to start creating the corner of our first block right here. So I'm going to pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and keep repeating this until I'm left with just 1 loop on my hook. So then I'm going to work my second row for this block. The way I like to think of it when I'm working this is I like to think I insert my hook and pull a loop through 6 times. So just like with working a normal Tunisian simple stitch, I go to that upright post, go right under it with my hook, yarn over, pull through 1. So now I've done it once, then twice, and then 3rd time, a 4th time, a 5th time, and now I'm out of stitches and I'm out of upright posts, so I'm going to work in my next available chain spot. So I'm going to come to this next loop right here, and that's where I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, and pull through my 6th loop. So I've got my first loop on the hook right here, plus the 6 more I just added, giving me a total of 7 loops on the hook. And now it's time to work my return pass. Again, I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, 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 whoop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and do that 6 times to come back across. So now I've worked 2 rows. I'm going to work 3 more rows on this block working the same way. So I'm going to pull up the additional 6 loops on my hook by just working the Tunisian simple stitch across and then working and pulling up that 6th loop in the chain. So once I've got my first 5 on here, come to that one on the chain, insert my hook, and pull through. And then I'm going to pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and do this process 6 times. So now I've done the first 3 rows of this block. I'm going to work 2 more rows just like this, the forward pass and the return pass. Alright, so I've worked my first 5 rows. It's curling up there a little bit on me, but that's okay. If you're not sure if you've worked 5 rows or not, you can count the number of posts you have going up. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that lets me know that I have worked 5 rows. So for the 6th row, I'm going to just work a slip stitch row across and end in the chain. So I'm going to insert my hook in that first stitch there. Again, when you work the Tunisian simple stitch or when you work just about any Tunisian stitch, you don't come in right here, you come under this guy right there, and I'm going to work a slip stitch. Come to the 2nd spot, work a slip stitch. come to the third spot, work a slip stitch. Come to the fourth spot, work a slip stitch. Come to the fifth spot, work a slip stitch, and then my sixth slip stitch is going to work right into the next empty chain. And there we go, just like that, I have completed my very first block. So now we're gonna go on to the second block. So I already have one loop on my hook, and I need to pull up 6 more loops. So I'm just gonna work along the chain here, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up 1, pull up 2, pull up 3, pull up 4, pull up 5, and pull up 6. So just like when we worked the forward pass of the first row in the very first block, I now have 7 loops on my hook. And now I'm going to repeat the same process to complete the return pass. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 a total of 6 times until I'm left with just 1 loop on the hook. And that's the first row of my second block. So I'm going to finish this block just like I finished the first block, and I'm going to work a total of 5 rows like this, and then on the 6th row I'm just going to do the slip stitch across. Again, make sure once you have 7 loops on your hook that when you work the return pass, you always pull through 2, even from the very first stitch. And that's going to help create that kind of square corner in the bottom. So do that for all the rows. Always pull through 2 loops on the return pass. So I'm going to work up 3 more rows to finish this block, and then work my slip stitch across, and then it'll be time to start my third and final block for this row. So I've worked the first 5 rows of this second block in Tunisian simple stitch, and now I'm going to work my slip stitch row across the top. And once more, I'm going to do a total of 6 slip stitches until I do my 6th slip stitch in the chain. Come in right there, work a slip stitch. And now it's time for me to do my third and final block of row 1. And the third block is going to be worked the exact same way we did the second one. So I've got 1 loop already on my hook. I need a total of 7, so I'm going to pull up 6 more loops by inserting in the next chain, yarning over, and pulling the loop through. Once I have 7 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and work that all the way back across. If you're like me, I like to count a lot when I do crochet, so I like to think on the forward pass I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then on the way back I count to 6 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I'm going to finish this block exactly the same way I finished block number 2. Alright, so I have worked my first row of Entrelac, and as I said, I'm doing 3 in my demo here. It kind of wants to curl, but it's okay, just keep it stretched out. Once you work a few more rows, it will be straighter and not nearly as curly. So now it's time to work on the second row of Entrelac. Now, like I said, with this variation that I'm doing, you don't need to worry about changing yarn. That's why we're using the variegated yarn. You also don't need to worry about detaching the yarn because we're just going to flip our work. But before we flip our work, we want to start by chaining 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to again work in this bottom part of the chain. So what I want to do is I want to end up with a total of 7 loops on my hook. So I already have 1 loop on my hook. I'm going to skip the first chain, and I'm going to insert my hook in the second chain from the hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull up 1 loop. So now I've got my second loop on here. Going to go to the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So now I had my first one on here, and I worked in the next 5 chains, so I've got 6 on here, and to get my 7th one, I'm going to come between the 2 loops of this slip stitch that we did along the top. So this very next one here, I'm going to insert my hook beneath both loops there, yarn over, and pull through both those loops. So now what I have is I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on my hook. And now it's time to start working the return pass where we yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, etc. until we're left with just 1 loop on the hook. And this is just like we worked it in the first row. So I'm going to work this second row in this particular block the same way we've been working them before. The only big difference is once I pull up my first 5 loops, to find that 6th loop that I'm going to pull through, I'm going to insert underneath right here. So we're kind of working up the side of this block from the first row, and I'm going to insert my hook right in here underneath both loops of that slip stitch that we did along the top of this previous block. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through 1. So that's my 6th loop. So I had the 1 on the loop, and then I pulled up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for a total of 7. And that's my forward pass. And now for the return pass, yarn over, pull through 2, and do that same method we've been doing. So again, every time I work a row on these blocks, I'm going to pull up an additional 6 loops. And that 6th one, I'm going to pull it up in the side of the previous row's block. So I'm going to come right here, insert my hook, and over and pull through 1. And then to work the return pass, pull through 2, and keep going until I have done 5 rows of Tunisian simple stitch. So now that I've worked 5 rows of Tunisian simple stitch in this block, I'm going to finish the block off by working 6 slip stitches across the top. So I'm going to work 1 slip stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then my 6th one I'm going to work in the previous row's block. So I'm going to come to the left here, insert again under both loops of the stitch, and then work my slip stitch right there. And that's my first block in the second row. Once we're done with the first block, it's pretty easy to start the second block of the row. So I've already got my first loop on the hook, and I'm going to insert my hook in this next spot here, pull through 1, insert in the next spot, pull up my second loop, insert in the next spot, pull up my third loop, insert in the next spot, pull up my 4th loop, insert in that last spot, pull up my 5th loop, and then I'm going to work the 6th loop in the block that's to the left of the one I'm working on. So I'm just going to insert it right there in the side and pull up my 6th loop. So I have my first one, pulled up 6 loops, and now I have a total of 7. And just like we've been doing to work the return pass, yarn over and pull through 2 until you're left with just 1 chain on the hook. And then I'm going to complete this block the exact same way I completed my first block. So I'm going to finish up this row, and then I'll show you how to start the 3rd row just so you can get the hang of that one more time. But then after that, you'll know how to do this variation of Entrelac Tunisian Crochet. Alrighty, so here we have completed the first 2 rows of Tunisian Entrelac. So the way you can tell is each row will have 3 blocks. So this right here, those 3 are row 1, 1, 2, 3, that's row 2. So I'm going to show you one more time how to start the next row, just because I think that's the most confusing part. But I've shown everything you need to know, and once you master how to do the changes, you'll be able to whip up some Tunisian Entrelac in no time. Also, another thing is right now, your project might be curling a bunch. Mine definitely is. But once you do more rows, it lays down a lot better. You can see that the corners still roll a little bit, but I'll probably block that to deal with that. So once more, here's how to start the next row. Begin by chaining 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're going to turn our work. And once more, we're going to start this in this chain we've created, and the block's going to sit right up here. And we're going to work until we have a total of 7 loops on our hook. So I'm going to come not in this first chain from the hook, but in the second chain right here, insert my hook, and pull up 1 loop. And then go to my next one, pull up a 2nd loop, my next chain, pull up a 3rd loop, my next chain, pull up a 4th loop, and then I'm going to work my 5th chain in this little spot right here. This is actually a chain It's a little goofy to see just because it's so close. So I've got my initial loop and then I just put up 5 more. So my 6th loop is going to be pulled right through at the very, very bottom here. I'm gonna insert my hook all the way to the other side. It goes under those 2 strands there, as you can see. Going to yarn over and pull up my 6th loop. So now I have 7 loops, and I'm just going to keep working this the same way I do all the other blocks, where I pull through 2 until I'm left with 1 loop on the hook. And then to work my next row, I'm going to do it the same way I've been doing all these other blocks. Just making sure that when I get to my 6th pull through, that I work it on the side here. I'm just going to work up the side. Once I do 5 rows of Tunisian simple stitch, I will do one last row at the very top where I just do a slip stitch across and slip stitch to the very top here. Then that loop from this top slip stitch is going to be my first loop in the next block. Then I'll pull up an additional 6 loops, again working that 6th one right here in the end, so I have a total of 7 loops. Then I'll do the pull through 2 thing and just keep repeating the process and make my project as big and as beautiful as I want. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and obviously the advantage of working this and really the beauty of the pattern comes in when you get to those color changes. It might feel like it's going to take you forever to get to the color change, but I promise this actually works up really quickly, and I just really like the way that the colors all nestle together, kind of these changes, you know, in the middle of these rows and just kind of offset. I think it's really cute. Also, again, it's very thick, very durable, nice and stretchy, and I just love Tunisian crochet because it works up super fast once you get the hang of the pattern. So definitely keep trying and working at this pattern until you've mastered it, and I'd love to know what you are going to be making with this pattern, so definitely let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your ideas. As always, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to like this video. Also, if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. I am so close to reaching my goal of 1,000, and if you would help me get closer, that would mean so much to me. I'm super excited, getting really close to reaching that 1,000 subscribers goal. So I've got some more video ideas that I'm going to be working on, different ideas circling around in my mind. So I can't wait to bring you more videos, possibly another one later on this week, but for sure you'll have a TuTu next Tuesday. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, happy crafting! Something that I have discovered that I like about the Bernat Pop, with using it, again, this is my first time using it, but the packaging is the perfect size to make a yarn wrapper crown. I think this is definitely going to be the new look for the season. You know, I'm definitely thinking this will be like the new fall trend, wearing one of these on your head. So when everybody's wearing them, remember that you saw it here first.